Motivation is often treated as the starting point, the thing we wait for before beginning, the feeling that tells us it is time to act. When motivation is high, everything feels possible. When it fades, progress seems to stall. This has led to a common belief that motivation is what moves us forward. But for most people, motivation is not the cause of action. It is the result of it. Motivation is unpredictable. It comes and goes without warning. It responds to mood, energy, circumstance, and environment. Some days it arrives easily. Other days it does not appear at all. If progress depends on motivation, then progress becomes fragile. Not because people lack discipline, but because they are waiting for a signal that was never meant to be reliable. What often moves people forward instead is something quieter. Not inspiration, not intensity, but consistency. Small actions, repeated often, begin to create momentum. And momentum changes how effort feels. Once something is in motion, continuing usually requires less energy than starting did. This is why action often precedes motivation rather than the other way around. There is also an identity layer to this. People tend to act in ways that feel consistent with how they see themselves. When behavior aligns with identity, it feels natural. When it does not, it feels forced. Someone who sees themselves as a reader does not wait for motivation to read. Reading is simply part of who they are. The action reinforces the identity, and the identity supports the action. Motivation becomes less relevant. This is one reason short bursts of enthusiasm often fade. They rely on feeling rather than structure. Once the feeling passes, there is nothing left to hold the behavior in place. Consistency, on the other hand, creates structure, not rigid routines, but gentle expectations. Something you do because it is familiar, not because you feel inspired. Discipline is often misunderstood here. It is commonly imagined as force or self-control, or pushing through resistance. But discipline, in practice, is often about removing decisions. When actions are small and predictable, they require less negotiation. You are not deciding whether to act. You are simply continuing something already in progress. This is why small actions matter more than dramatic ones. They lower the threshold for starting. They reduce friction. They make progress easier to repeat. Over time, these small actions accumulate, not just in results, but in self-perception. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, and that perception quietly changes what feels possible. It is also worth noting that motivation tends to follow clarity. When a task is vague or overwhelming, motivation struggles to appear. When the next step is clear and manageable, resistance decreases. The mind responds better to specificity than ambition. Not what you will do eventually, but what you will do next. This does not mean motivation is useless. It can be helpful. It can provide energy. It can make beginnings feel lighter. But it is not a foundation. It is more like a signal that momentum is already present. Progress is usually shaped by what you return to, not what excites you. What you repeat quietly. What you do even when it feels ordinary. Forward movement rarely looks dramatic from the inside. It looks like showing up again. The myth of motivation suggests that change begins with feeling ready. In reality, change often begins with acting before readiness arrives. With small steps, with consistency, with an identity that grows slowly through action. And over time, motivation tends to follow. Not as a spark, but as a byproduct of movement already underway.